So what you see is one thread. So where you are, like where you are when you look around, that's one thread. But where you put blocks when you like click on the world, that's a different thread, believe it or not. So the desync, you can desync by or you can desync in a way where you look like you're in one place, but you're actually in another in terms of block placement. And that's like the quote-unquote lag that I talked about earlier. Is like, you know, you get on a minecart, you travel a long distance, and then you get there and you try to place a block, it doesn't place. That's because like the visuals tell you that you're in one place, but for the sake of block placement, you are actually much further behind. Like, you're still catching up. So that's interesting. That's one thing I learned from the testing. And also, the redstone is on a different thread. The minecart is on a different thread. And it looks like the minecart thread actually forcibly updates the redstone thread. Or rather, okay, so the redstone thread follows the visuals thread. So wherever it looks like you are, the redstone thread will try to keep up with that. And also it will like try to keep up to date with where it looks like you are. Also the redstone and the minecart. So, and the reason I say that is because when I ride the minecart through the train network, through the regional loop, and I'm going past these signals, like, it actually keeps up perfectly. There's actually like no delay between where it looks like I am and where the redstone is being calculated. So that keeps up pretty much perfect. That keeps perfect sync. That doesn't get desync. Or not much. I guess it does get desynced a little bit. Otherwise, the bug at the entrance there wouldn't happen. So it gets desynced a little bit, but only very little. It keeps up almost perfectly. Whereas once you get off the minecart and you try to like place blocks, that would take a long time to catch up. So that doesn't keep up. I don't know if that makes any sense. Just me saying it, but basically like everything is kind of on different threads and they try to sync up. And in some places they will wait for each other. Like the redstone and the minecart and the visuals will kind of wait for each other to make sure that things don't break. Except in like very extreme situations where it might break a little bit. The other thing is the entry from the regional loop into loop 1, the place where it broke before. That break was surprisingly consistent. It like, so if you start from, what was it? Was it going from like 2-1 to 1-1? I think it was. So going from 2-1 to 1-1, that consistently broke at that location every single time. which is also interesting. So it's not entirely random, or it's not like dependent on things outside the game. Because when I tested it several times, and every single time it broke in the exact same place, in the exact same way. But only if you accumulate that amount of desync by traveling that particular distance. It has to be like that particular distance creates that particular amount of desync, which then breaks that particular junction. So it's remarkably consistent. But like, you know, only the first time, right? So like you load the game, you ride from, well, you go to 2.1, exit the game, restart the game, ride from 2.1 to 1.1, and it breaks at that particular point. If you don't reset the game, if you just like try it again immediately, the amount of desync will be different the second time because you're compounding, you're going through it twice, so you're adding to the desync, and then it may or may not happen. I didn't test enough to just like thoroughly, or I didn't like exhaustively find out all the conditions. But like changing the conditions will change whether you break the junction or not. And like laggier doesn't mean worse. Or right, laggier doesn't guarantee the break, because if it's laggier, the game might just like lag a little more, which then gives the game more time to load the chunk and to load the circuitry, and then it doesn't break. So laggier may actually reduce the probability of the circuitry breaking. Because that lag actually gives the game more time to load the chunk. It's pretty wild. I wonder if it's possible to fix that by delaying the simulation. What do I mean by that? Because I'm assuming it breaks because it tries to simulate the redstone as soon as the chunk loads in the distance. Right, so like the chunks are loading in the distance, and it's processing redstone at that distance. I wonder if it would break, or it would be more reliable if you like load in the chunks and then like delay processing the redstone until after it's guaranteed to be loaded in. It seems very complicated though, I don't know. One, it seems very complicated, and two, even in this ginormous train network, it only breaks at that particular point under those specific conditions. So it's not like it's a big problem. It's not like it's a consistent problem either. It's just like how many people actually have minecart networks that are switched by redstone, stretching across thousands of blocks. Like, this is not the kind of thing that people do very often, right? Large-scale redstone circuitry that is active as you travel at high speed. Who does that? Who does that really? Who does that? I do that. Who else does that? Probably no one. Alright, so most of the debug signals are done there. Let me just like fly through this really fast. Alright, this guy, let's go ahead and remove that. Is that how, it's like this, right? And remove that, good. The thing about these junctions, and probably part of the problem is that that particular junction is straddling a chunk boundary. Because if you load, so if the circuitry is straddles two different chunks, right? You load in the closer chunk, you process that, and then you load in the other chunk and you process that. That might break the signal because the signal only works if it does the whole thing at the same time. So I mean, it could be a combination of things, really, at that particular junction. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to isolate and test. I wouldn't know how to do it. All right, so regarding like the entries, so this is the regional loop coming into loop 5, right? You will notice that as you come in, first of all you turn this way, which like slows down your minecart a little bit. Then you turn 90 degrees this way, which again, so like you're going back and forth, you slow down a little bit. And then the next junction is actually quite far ahead. The next junction is actually all the way here, right? And there's a lot of bends and turns. So my hypothesis, which I don't have proof yet because I don't really want to do that much testing. But my hypothesis is that when you're coming in here, it turns and there's enough time for the junction to load in before the signal gets to it. And that's why this signal doesn't break. Like this particular signal, it like never breaks here. The way it breaks over in loop 1. And it's just because there's more space here. That's all it is. I think. More space, therefore more time for chunks to load in before the redstone is calculated. And as we go around all the 5 loops, you see that the other loops are the same. There's just more time and more space. And more like turning back and forth. Alright, that one... How do I want to do this? I guess I want to test 5-5 and 1-1. I could do it like 1-1, go to 5-5. No. Because at the moment, the entry junction into loop 1 is set as 1, 1. I need to like set that to a different one. Because going from 2, 1 to 1, 1, if it's already 1, 1 at the junction, it doesn't actually test the junction. Because if the junction doesn't work, it just doesn't matter. I need to change the signal at that junction and then test it. The stream is lagging. And now it's not. Alright, stream seems fine. Wonder what that was. Maybe it was the lag. As I said, the game's trying to catch up. As I travel across the landscape at high speed. Alright, here's loop 4. And loop 4, once again, you will see that coming in from the regional loop, there's quite a few twists and turns. Well, you come here, come into this loop, turn around a bit, turn around a bit, turn around a bit, and then after this much distance, you get to the next junction. So like you're not coming in a straight line, you're coming in like back and forth a little bit. And you're also loading diagonally, which probably helps. Going in a straight line is faster than going diagonally because like there's these little bits too, right? Like this little back and forth slows down a little bit. Oops. Did I say I wanna prune some of these trees? Like here? Like, why is that so close? Alright, like trim these trees a little bit. That's better. You know what, let me just like get rid of those. Alright, cool. Alright, now we are flying into loop 3. Right, loop 3 is here.